Hi everybody! Welcome to the Jayda InStitches show. The month of May has arrived and therefore it is time for another installment in our 2017 calendar blanket. April showers bring May flowers, and that is the theme of this month's square. We're going to make a great big flower with a cute little butterfly applique right in the middle. And speaking of appliques, this week I've got kind of a neat technique to show you for sewing down your appliques, which will make them pop up off your square and really define their edges. A couple things to remember. If you've been using worsted weight acrylic all along with me with these other squares we've been making, stick to the same material. You don't want to vary it up, you want to stick to acrylic. And it doesn't matter what colors you use, but you want to make sure you use the same fabric. And the last border row we do, so the final row we do on the square, whatever color you chose for your border row, you want to make sure you use the same one so that all of our squares have a unified look when we put them all together at the end. That said, let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, head on over to the craft table, and we'll stitch up the May square together. For our Mayflower square, you're going to want a yarn needle and a pair of scissors, a 5.5 millimeter hook, or an I9. It's the same hook we've been using for the rest of our squares. A butterfly applique. We'll put the link to the tutorial for that little applique in the description box down below. And depending on how you want to do your colors for your square, you're going to want a middle flower color, a petal color, a background color, and if you're using bright green like me, a different green for your leaves, and whatever border color you've chosen for the rest of your calendar blanket squares, you want the same color. For me today, I'm going to do the center and the border in bright white. I'm going to do lilac for my petals, my bright green for the background, and this nice darker green for my leaves. And once you've got all that together, we can get started. We're going to begin in the very middle of our circle, so we want to start with a cinch circle. And once you've chained one to secure your cinch circle, chain two more for a total of 3. This counts as a double crochet, and you want to work 11 more double crochet into that cinch circle. Once you have a total of 12, that includes your your chain 3 to begin, you want to grab your short tail, cinch your circle shut nice and tight, and join to the top of your chain 3 to close your circle. That's row 1. You have a total of 12 stitches. Off to row 2. We chain 3 to begin. Double crochet into the same stitch as joining. There's the space right where my finger is. And we're doubling up our stitch count, so you're going to work 2 double crochet into every stitch all the way around. At the end of row 2, you'll have 24 stitches, and we can use my little cheat technique where, in order to avoid this gap, we're going to identify the false stitch, which is that little piece that the chain 3 comes out of, double crochet once into that, and then skip over the chain 3 and join with a slip stitch to the top of the first actual double crochet. That pushes the chain 3 to the back, does not change your stitch count, and closes up that little gap nicely. That's row 2, 24 stitches. Row 3, chain 3 to begin. Double crochet into the same stitch as joining, so that counts as 2. Double crochet once into the next stitch, and that's the pattern. 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into the stitch after that. So 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around. You'll have 36 stitches at the end of row 3. At the end of row 3, you should have 36 stitches. You can use my little cheat technique. Join to the top of the real double crochet, and we begin row 4. It's going to be our last center color with this color. So we chain 3 to begin. Double crochet in the same stitch as joining, and that counts as 2. And now you're going to double crochet once into each of the next 2 stitches. And that is the pattern for row 4. 2 double crochet into the first stitch, double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and repeat. Work that pattern all the way around. You'll have 48 stitches at the end of row 4. At the end of row 4, you'll have 48 stitches. You can use my little cheat technique, skip over and join to the real double crochet. And that is the center of our flower finished, so you can fasten off. And take a moment to weave in your ends. We're moving on to the petal part of our flower now. So we're going to grab our petal color and begin with a slip knot. Then you're going to join your yarn right about where you fastened off your last color, and you can join with a slip stitch. Chain 3 to begin. That 3 counts as a double crochet, and we're still working in the round. We are still increasing, so we're going to double crochet in the same stitch as joining, and double crochet once into each of the next 3 stitches. And that is the pattern for row 5. 2 double crochet into the first stitch, double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, repeat that little pattern all the way around, and you'll have 60 stitches in total at the end of row 5. At the end of row 5, we've got 60 stitches, and now we're going to build some petals. Chain 1 to begin row 6, and into the same stitches joining single crochet. We're going to skip the next stitch, identify the stitch after that, and work 5 treble crochets into it. So a treble crochet, remember, is you wrap your yarn twice around your hook, pick up a loop in the stitch, and then wrap, back through 2, wrap, back through 2, wrap, back through 2. You're going to work 4 more treble crochets into the same stitch. Once you have 5 treble crochets worked into the same stitch, skip the next stitch, find the one after that, and single crochet into it. Then we start this all over again. Single crochet into the very next stitch, skip a stitch, find the next one, and work 5 treble crochets into it. Once you have 5 treble crochets in the same stitch, skip a stitch, find the next one, and single crochet into it. And that's the pattern all the way around. Begin with a single crochet, skip a stitch, work 5 treble crochets into the next stitch, skip a stitch, and single crochet into the next stitch. Repeat that all the way around for row 6, and you will have 12 petals at the end of the row. When you're nearing the end of row 6 and you've worked your last 5 treble crochet into that stitch, you should skip a stitch, and there should be 1 stitch left to single crochet into, and then you can join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet that you began the row with. And that is it for our purple, or our flower color. You can fasten off and weave in your ends. Now we want to put in our background color. For me, that's going to be green, but I want you to notice that we are going to work in the back loops only as we work row 7, so that our flower petals stand out. That's what creates that nice sharp ridge effect. Our petal really stands out against the background. So we're going to work in the back loops only. What are the back loops? Well, there are 2 loops across the top of every stitch. You can see them here. Here's the front loop, it's the one closest to you, and the back loop, it's the one furthest away. We are only going to use the back loops of every stitch for this row. So grab your background color and let's go. With our background color, we're going to begin with a slip knot. Then you're going to pick up your flower and pick any set of 2 single crochets. So those are the 2 low stitches in between all of our petals. So any set of 2, find the first of the 2, so this one here, and you're going to join back loop only with a slip stitch. Now as we're working this row, you're going to see the loop pull up a bit. Don't worry, that will disappear, it'll even itself out, but it is kind of helpful as we're working because you know you're actually only working the back loop, and that's what we're going to do for this whole row. So once you've joined your background color, you're going to chain 5, and this chain 5 counts as a double crochet, chain 2. Into the next stitch, and remember it's back loops only, we're going to double crochet. Now this counts as a corner. So we're only going to work 4 of these, and here's what the rest of the pattern looks like. Into the next stitch, back loop only, double crochet. And up and over the petal looks like this. Half double crochet into the next stitch. Single crochet into the next stitch. Remember, it's only the back loops. Half double crochet into the next stitch. Double crochet into the next stitch. That should bring you back down to the 2 single crochets in between this petal and the next, these 2 here. And we're going to double crochet these 2 stitches together. So we begin a double crochet, work the first half of it, and then begin a double crochet in the next stitch and work the first half of it, and then wrap and back through everything, and that is a 2 double crochet together. It counts as a single stitch. And now we're going to do that same thing up and over the next petal. So we'll double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet into the stitch after that. We're at the top of the petal now. It gets a single crochet, half double, double, and then double crochet 2 stitches together across those middle 2. Work the same little pattern up and over the next petal, and then pause once you get to the next 2 stitches. Alright, we began with a corner. We worked that double, half, single, half, double, double crochet 2 stitches together, double, half, single, half, double, double crochet 2 stitches together, and the same thing over this petal. We're at the next 2 middle stitches. We want to create a corner, so we're going to double crochet into the first of those 2 single crochets from the previous row, chain 2, and double crochet into the second stitch. And that is what you're going to repeat all the way around. So we started with a corner, that counts as a corner. You're going to work that double, half, single, half, double all the way across the top of every single petal. But for 2 sets of single crochets in between, you're going to double crochet 2 together across them. When you get to the third, you want to create a corner. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. So you'll always have a corner with 2 double crochet 2 stitches together across the next 2 dips. Get to the third, create a corner. But you work the same little double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet pattern up and over top of every single petal. And I'll see you back round at the beginning. We're at the end of row 7. You should have 4 chain 2 spaces and 76 stitches all the way around. So the last stitch you would have worked is a double crochet. You're going to count up 3 stitches in that chain 5 you began with and join to the third chain. That completes row 7, and every stitch should have been worked into the back loop only of the stitch from the previous row. That allows our flower to really pop out of the background color. So you have this lovely little ridge effect moving all the way around your flower. Now let's turn this into more of a square, shall we? So we're still with our background color. We're going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space, which is a corner, and then we're going to chain 3 to begin. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We're going to double crochet once more into the corner space, chain 2 for the corner space, and only one double crochet to begin this side. So every corner space gets 2 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet. So we're evenly increasing as we go around, but our corners are going to be treated a little bit differently. We're going to double crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches, half double crochet into each of the next 4, double crochet into the last 2 stitches, and that brings us up to our chain 2 corner space from the row previous, and we're going to work that funky little corner into it. So 2 double crochet into that chain 2 space, chain 2, and then just 1 double crochet, and that begins the next row. And you're going to repeat that little pattern all the way across each row, all the way around. So after you do 2 double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the corner space, work 2 double crochet across the next 2 stitches, 4 half double crochet across the next 4 stitches, single crochet across the next 7, half double crochet across the next 4, double crochet in the last 2 stitches, and then you're back to a corner space, 2 double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. So you can repeat that all the way around, and I will see you back at the beginning. We're at the end of row 8. You should have 4 chain 2 corners, and if you've worked your last stitch, it should have been a double crochet. You can join with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 that you began the row with. And we've got one more row of our background color to do, and it's nice and simple. It's just double crocheting. So at the end of row 8, you should have 88 stitches and 4 chain 2 corners. You can take a moment to use the flat of your hand and the heat of it to just sort of pull out your corners and flatten down those edges. Make it look a little more square. There we go, it's starting to look like a square. Okay, row 9, we're going to chain 3 to begin. And this one's pretty simple. You're going to double crochet into the next stitch, and then every chain 2 corner gets 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. So typical corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and you're just going to double crochet into every single stitch all the way across. Remember to look, so if you have to pull back a little bit on your corner stitches, don't skip that first stitch. You don't want to mess up your stitch count. So double crochet into the top of every single stitch, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in every corner, and I'll see you back round at the beginning. At the end of row 9, you should have 104 stitches in total, plus 4 chain 2 corners. You can join with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 you began with, fasten off, weave in your ends, and now it's time for the border. So this is the same border pattern we have added to all of our other calendar blankets so far, or I should say calendar blanket squares. We're going to begin with a slip knot with your border color. Grab your square, pick a corner, any corner, join with a slip stitch and chain 3. This is a granny shell border, so we're going to add 2 double crochets to the same space to create our first shell. Chain 2 for the corner. And to finish the corner, we're going to work another shell or 3 double crochets. Chain 1 for a spacer, and off we go. Don't forget to count this stitch here, the top of that stitch. You're going to skip 3 stitches, find the 4th, and work a shell into it. So 3 double crochets into that stitch. Chain 1 for a spacer, skip 3 stitches, find the 4th, work a shell into it. Repeat that all the way across. You'll have 6 single shells all the way across your side, and then once you get to the next corner, work shell, chain 2, shell into it, chain 1, and keep going. Skip 3 stitches, find the 4th, work a shell into it. And I will see you back round at the beginning. Now we're going to make some leaves. You're going to make 4 of these in total to go into the 4 corners of your square. You want your darker green color. We're going to begin with a slip knot. And we're going to chain 5. Once you have 5, find the first chain from the hook and skip it, slip stitch into the second, single crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the next chain, and that should leave you with 1 chain left. Into that you're going to work 6 double crochets. Once you've worked 6 double crochets into that last chain, you'll see you naturally spin around the bottom, and now we're going to repeat in reverse the same stitches going back up the underside of our chain row. So you might have a giant hole here, that's fine, it will disappear. You're going to half double crochet into the bottom of the half double crochet, single crochet into the bottom of the single crochet, and I'm working over my short tail, but you can just leave it hanging and weave it in later, it's up to you. And then slip stitch into the bottom of the slip stitch. That brings us back up to the top of our leaf. We're going to chain 1, and now we're going to slip stitch down the center of our leaf. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 very obvious holes there. Very loosely, you're going to put your hook through the first one and slip stitch. Hook down through the second one and slip stitch, nice and loose. The third hole, these are all down the middle of our leaf, and slip stitch, and into the nice big one at the bottom. Slip stitch. Try to keep them nice and loose. Pull up on that last loop a little bit because we want to slip stitch through one of the 2 bottom stitches. You can just pick one to the left or the right, doesn't matter. And there is our little leaf. Now you want to leave a nice long tail because we're going to sew them down with it. And fasten off. Pull that nice and tight. There. You want 4 of these little leaves, and then we're going to stitch them into our corners. Just a quick note on our little butterfly applique. The link for that tutorial is in the description box down below. Some of you may still have the free pattern in your project journal. That free pattern for our little butterfly is available on our website, and that link is in the description box as well. When you finish making the body of the butterfly and you tie the long tail on the back, leave it because you want to be able to sew your butterfly down with that long tail. But for his antenna, instead of using beads and wire like we did in the tutorial, we're going to use a little bit of black yarn and our yarn needle, and you're going to run your yarn needle underneath those wraps across the middle of your butterfly that make up his little body, and just tug it through. You can pull up on those 2 ties so that you bring it up to about the top of the body, right about where his head would be. Knot the 2 ends together nice and tightly twice. And then you can trim those 2 ends to make a pair of antennae as long as you like. There we go. And they can just sit loose on our little flower. So that's the one little note for the butterfly applique. You need 4 leaves, 1 for each corner of your square, and you only need 1 butterfly. But I went ahead and made a few because I couldn't quite decide what color to use for my butterfly. But I think I'm going to go with this pretty little orange. Once you've chosen a color for your butterfly, we're going to sew that down first. But you'll notice that the butterfly on my sample square sits up. It doesn't look sewn down like some of the other appliques we've done. So there's a cute little technique I'm going to show you guys today, which will allow our butterflies and our leaves to sort of sit up with a 3-dimensional look. You want to take the long tail that you left on your applique and thread it up with your yarn needle. You can pin this into place if you feel you need the help, just to sort of keep it where you want it. I'm going to put mine in the lower left-hand corner, somewhere around there. And this is how I've sewn on the appliques for this square. I'm going to pick up a piece of a stitch, just like we usually do, on the square. So a piece of the stitch of the square, not going all the way through. And I'm going to pick up a piece of the underside of a stitch on the butterfly. So if you can see that that is a piece of the stitch, but not the part that runs across the top edge. So actually, let me get this sewn in here. I'll show you. So that's underneath the butterfly, and that's the stitch. So I didn't actually run my thread through that stitch. And here's the stitch I'm talking about. That one right there. I didn't touch that. I used the 3rd loop of that stitch underneath it. So let me just do a couple more. So there's a piece of the square, and there's the underside of the stitch. And as I work my way around, I'm not interfering with the actual loops, the top loops of the stitch. So my butterfly is going to sit up, looking almost 3-dimensional, like he just perched on my flower. I'm going to grab another piece of the square, the underside of the loop, and as always, set it down, make sure it's still where you want it to be, and then just continue your way all the way around, grabbing a piece of the square, and the underside of the loop, and it will not show through to the back, and your butterfly will be sewn down, but it'll look like it's just been perched there. So you can go ahead, finish the rest of your butterfly, and then we're going to do the leaves the same way. Once you've sewn your entire butterfly down, and you'll see that Mine looks like it's just perched up on top of my flower. You don't have to knot, but you should have enough tie left that you can bring it up somewhere in the body of your butterfly. And then you want to very carefully weave it through, back and forth, through some of the stitches in your butterfly. This will lock down your string so it doesn't want to come undone, and it sort of doesn't mean you have to put in a knot. So remember to hop over a piece, don't go back through the same place that you came out of. Don't pull too tightly. And just go back and forth a few times. Maybe come out another spot and do a little more weaving across some different stitches. And do that a few times, back and forth, and then your string should be locked into place. Once our butterfly is sewn down, it's time to do the leaves. You can start in any corner with any leaf. The leaves should cover up your spaces, so not necessarily all 3 of them, but they should butt up against your flower and just work so that they kind of cover up those chain 2 spaces we built. You can thread up the long tail, and you can work the same method of stitching that you did for your butterfly. So the first couple of stitches I'm going to actually wrap around. There's the bottom of that stitch, so I'm picking up the bottom of the stitch, but I want to make it look like there's a little bit of a stem on my leaf. So I'm going to take a piece of that loop from the flower and wrap my yarn around it and a loop on the bottom of my leaf a couple of times. And that'll make it look like there's just a little bit of a stem there. And then I can work my way around the rest of my leaf. I pick up a piece of the square, I pick up a loop underneath. I'm going to loop, there we go. Another piece of the square, and a loop underneath. And then as I work my way around, the whole leaf will have a little bit of an anchor in the bottom, and it will be attached nice and tightly, but the whole edge will pop up. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to reflect this nice little ridge effect we made with our flower, just to get more of a 3D blossoming effect. So go ahead, you can work on that leaf and the other 3. You can weave your tails back and forth across the top loops of your leaf, just like we did with the butterfly for all 4. Same thing, nothing shows through to the back. Nice and tidy. And I'll see you when you've got all of your leaves sewn on. Once you've got all 4 leaves sewn down and you've worked your tails back and forth a couple times, you can trim your excess and you're all done. And that is the May square. And there you have it, the May square. A great big flower, any color you like, with a cute little butterfly, also any color you like. And like all the other square patterns we've had for the 2017 calendar blanket, this one is also available for sale in our Etsy shop. And I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who's popped into the shop and done some shopping lately. Thank you very much for your support. And that's it for this week, everyone. Until next time on the Jayda and Stitches show, stay safe, stay crafty, and have an awesome week. Bye!